From Bishop Ireton High School, it's Real World Wednesdays, a show featuring alumni and friends of the school for the Cardinal community and beyond. I'm Ryan Fannin, Associate Director of Advancement and a member of the BI class of 1989. And on the show today is Annie Brody, BI class of 2014, who continues to advance and rolls on Capitol Hill after a class at Bishop Ireton sparked her interest in government. It's always hard to know it in the moment, but sometimes there are decisions we make as we grow up that set us on a course that we may never have explored otherwise. For our guest today, Annie Brody, who some might remember with her maiden name of Annie Barletta, it was two moments during her time at Bishop Ireton in the early 2010s that changed the trajectory of her life. Annie was born and raised in the Northern Virginia area and was surrounded by a close-knit family from a young age. In addition to her parents and older brother, some of her extended family was also a constant presence in her life, including her uncle and four cousins, all of whom are also Bishop Ireton graduates. She attended the Basilica School of St. Mary in Alexandria for her elementary and middle school years before starting at Bishop Ireton in 2010. While at Bishop Ireton, Annie was involved in a number of different extracurricular activities in athletics in addition to being a great student. She played lacrosse, ran cross country, and even joined the swim team her senior year. She was a member of the Beta Club, the National Honor Society, attended a Kairos retreat, and more. But it was a class she took her senior year that really helped set the course for the next part of her life and her career. While in AP Government with Mrs. Marie Markinson, she had the opportunity to visit the U.S. Capitol on Constitution Day. It was there that her interest in government and politics really took off. Following graduation from BI, Annie attended Clemson University, where she majored in political science. While in school, she took advantage of internship opportunities to build a network on Capitol Hill and quickly found a job as a staff assistant soon after her graduation from Clemson in 2018. From there, Annie's career took off and she continued to excel, working with multiple congresspeople with increasing levels of responsibility. Today, she works as the Director of Business Coalitions for House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a role she has held since February 2025. To get a better idea, though, of how she became the successful young woman she is today, you have to go back to her early life, when the influence and values of her immediate and extended family really began to shape the person she would become.
I grew up in a very close-knit family. I was really lucky to have several aunts and uncles and cousins in this area. And I always felt like, around our dinner table at home, it was not just my mom, my dad, and my brother, but there were cousins or aunts or my grandmother or someone there. And that was a really special thing. My cousins, also a bunch of Ireton grads, grew up right down the street in my neighborhood. And so when it came to deciding where to go to high school, I was really excited about BI. One of my uncle, Ed Comets, was an Ireton grad. He played in this band, the BI Sons, and we'd always heard so many great Ireton stories. And my grandmother would donate to BI every year. And I remember seeing her name in the Cardinal Connection or whatever that list is. And that was just so sweet. That was really always, it showed me she really believed in this. And so if she does, and she is the best person I've ever met, then there's something here. So my family really helped encourage me to go to BI, and it was great. I had an older cousin, Meg Webster. She was the year before me, and then several of my cousins came after me, and we would carpool. It was just the right place for all of us. It was an opportunity for us to bond and to grow as a family.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the time before you became a Cardinal. Tell us about where you went to elementary school, middle school, and how did your early schooling prepare you for Bishop Ireton from your perspective?
I went to St. Mary's in Old Town, and it was a great experience. I think that was a time where it really, going to Catholic school really instilled in me a sense of faith and the importance of that and family. And so I think it was really natural, after St. Mary's, looking at BI, and that felt like a very welcoming environment. I think that was what really drew me in. And I felt like, people, I could see myself at that school. And so going to St. Mary's really laid that groundwork. And I really was excited that it was all kind of in the Alexandria area. And so it was comfortable and familiar. And my older cousin, Meg Webster, also went to BI. And so she was the year before me. And so so that was also a nice way to kind of enter coming into BI.
What were some other final decisions, reasons where you said, Ireton is the place for me, looking back when you were at that moment of decision?
I saw that I could see myself there, and especially in sports. I felt like that was a place where I was going to be able to come in and be part of a group. I ran cross country, and I had a neighbor growing up in my neighborhood that ran cross country at BI, and we even started some practices like even before in early August, even before I really stepped foot on campus in the classroom. And so that was something that really struck me, just a sense of community and the people that wanted, you to be there.
Let's talk about that time. So it's 2010, you're starting your freshman year at Bishop Ireton. What were your first impressions of the school and the students you met on your first few days? As we all look back and think about that first week, everybody's nervous and everybody's excited all in one.
Lots of emotions, very exciting. I think there were a lot of bright faces and people that I even instantly connected with. I think one of my friends, Capri Puglisi, I met her like on one of the very first days of BI, and we're still very good friends to this day. Really started quickly with the cross country team, and that set up a great group of friends, especially in the fall, and a lot of bonding. We had our Halloween themed run where we'd like dress up and run, do our practice that afternoon. And so those were things that really brought me in and gave me that sense of community very quickly.
Now, in addition to cross country, you played lacrosse, you swam your senior year. Tell us about how those experiences helped shape you as you progressed through high school.
Playing on different sports teams was one of the best building blocks of my life. I think I went on in a physical capacity. I've run several half marathons since, and I credit my time on the BI cross country team to teach me how to prepare for a race. And there are so many life skills you learn from preparing for a race, being on a team, that I continue to have in my life today. Playing on different sports teams was really fun. I swam my senior year, and I did not have a ton of experience doing that, but I was welcomed with open arms from even the people on the swim team that had been there all 4 years doing it.
And you're walking in to record our Real World Wednesdays, and right as you walk through the door, you see one of your own classmates today.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
First person I ran into, Caitlin McNutt, that was really special. I think it's really cool to see some of my classmates back here at Bishop Ireton. And it's a true testament to the impact that this school had on all of us. And it's something I think about a lot. I think I'm really proud to have gone to Bishop Ireton, and I meet many people that I work with that their kids are going to Ireton or considering going to Ireton. And I always make a big push that this is one of, if not the best school in this area.
Can you talk about some other formative experiences you had at Bishop Ireton on the extracurricular side? I know you were in the Beta Club, worked on the yearbook, and attended the very still popular Kairos retreat when you were a student.
I really enjoyed getting to work with and know several different groups of students at BI. The Beta Club was an awesome experience. I got to do a lot of service and plan some community service and kind of and bonding with other students. That was a special thing to be a part of. I know that we had many strategy sessions on how to even grow the Beta Club and get more people involved. And it's special, coming to BI at 7 a.m. for these club meetings before school starts. It was a really special, group to be a part of. The yearbook was really cool to do something that was a little outside of my everyday life, but I loved writing and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with on the yearbook. And something that would, you worked on something that was going to continue to be around for a long time. People have on their shelves, and I'll look back, to this day. And that's a really proud accomplishment. And Kairos was awesome. BI definitely helped instill the importance of my Catholic faith. And I think that I was very lucky to have so many good experiences at BI that really made my Catholic faith something in my life to this day and something that I want to continue forever.
I want to shift now to academics. And specifically, I want to ask about a class you took that I know had a big impact on you and your future career. Can you tell us about the impact that being an AP government with Marie Markuson, who, by the way, is still a very beloved teacher at BI, had on you?
AP Gov was a class that I did not know was probably going to change my life so much that it did. And we got to volunteer on local campaigns. I remember doing that and doing some phone banking. And this was like, you did phone banking when they gave you a basket of phones and they put it in the middle of the table and said, call people. Like, that's not even, it was really, really cool. And it was in that class that I was exposed to things that I think subconsciously were really having an impact on me. That I didn't even know at the time. We got to go to the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol building, where I have an office today, which is a really, really cool thing, for Constitution Day when I was a senior. And growing up here, DC is our backyard, and I would go to museums growing up, and we'd take the metro in with my cousins, and I loved it. But going to the Capitol on Constitution Day, I was in awe, and it was one of the coolest things that I ever did. I remember the photos that I took outside of the Capitol in my black fleece pullover and skirt, and we went in, and it was basically talking about the 17th Amendment. We had a cake that had the Constitution on it, and we ate a piece of that cake, and that was just so cool. And Mrs. Markuson really encouraged us to take that class out of the classroom. It was something that I still think about a lot today and really helped my path forward in my career.
I want to ask you about another thing that I know impacted you while you were in high school. I understand that you were invited to be part of the Salesian summer retreat in Michigan, but also had the opportunity to participate in Girls State. And I imagine that was a difficult decision to make between the two, but you ultimately decided to go to Girls State. For our listeners who might not know, can you talk about what Girls State is and the impact that had on you?
Yes, I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk about Girls State, because that was something that I didn't know a ton about, and I think it is a wonderful program. So Virginia Girls State, it is essentially kind of a 1-week summer camp for high school students in Virginia to attend. There's a boys' state and there's a girls' state. And so we all went to Longwood University, kind of in Southern Virginia, and every high school in Virginia sends a certain number of girls, 4 or so girls. And so you have girls from all over the state represented, and you stay in the dorms. So that was really cool. And essentially what you do over the course of a week is you build a mock state government. So you have elections, you have caucusing, you are kind of learning the building blocks of what is necessary in a government, right? And so this was my first exposure to really the government and political process, and firsthand, and having the experiences. I decided to go to Girls State after the encouragement from one of my guidance counselors here at BI, and she encouraged me, this would be something that would help set me apart in the college application process. So I decided to go to Girls State, but it was the same week as this Salesian summer retreat. You always saw these people go to this retreat, and it looked like such a magical and wonderful experience and a beautiful place. I had never been to Michigan, and I remember seeing people go, and I always thought that was what a great experience that must be. And I was blown away that I was invited to go to that. That was a huge honor. But it was the same week as this girls' state program that I had been in discussions with my guidance counselor. And I ultimately decided to go to girls' state. And I remember packing for girls' state, and I'm in my room and I'm with my mom, and you have to wear like kind of business professional clothing. So that was also a hurdle of, you got your BI uniforms. I don't have all those kinds of clothes. So I'm there complaining about packing to my mom, and she's like, you just got to go, Annie. Like, you got to do this. And so I packed my bags, and it changed the direction of my life. From there, when I was in my college application process and you're deciding, what's your major going to be, that was something that I needed some direction with. And I remember talking to my mom about, what will my major be? I just don't know. And she goes, Annie, you loved going to Virginia Girls State. You should do something that's related to that. Political science would be a great move for you. And it's a very general degree, essentially. And she goes, that was an interest that you had, and you should try it out. And so that's how I decided to go be a political science major at Clemson University.
Today, so many of Ireton's students come to these roads where they get that normal stress that comes with making those decisions. But just expand, if you can, a little bit about not to maybe agonize so much over the decisions, but just trust your decision even at a young age.
There is a plan, and sometimes you don't get to see it fully right at the moment, but it is going to work out. And I had a hard time deciding if I wanted to go to this Salesian retreat versus going to Girls State. But ultimately, it worked out how it was supposed to. And it felt in the moment that it was the biggest decision of my life. And I just did not know where to turn. And I just felt so many emotions about that I was so torn both ways. But you have to take a step back. And this was something that opened the door that I had no idea that what to come from that. You know what ultimately is best for you. So be confident in yourself and take it from there, and you will launch yourself.
Tell us a little bit about that decision to go to Clemson and your experience there. And then I also want to ask you a little bit about how well Ireton prepared you for college from your perspective.
When I went to Clemson, I was following in the footsteps of my brother who had gone there for the previous 4 years. So we didn't have any overlap, but it was an environment where I'd gone to some football games. We had dropped him off there. So I had some touches with the state of South Carolina and Clemson. And I applied to several Virginia schools and got into several. And I also applied to Clemson. I did not apply to like 15 schools. I grew up here. My whole family is here. I grew up down the street from my cousins. My grandmother lived a mile from BI. This was my, comfort zone. I decided that I was going to branch out and go to Clemson. And that was a wonderful decision that helped me grow. And I think that a lot of that, BI encouraged me. Here we are. Be who you are and be that well, right?
Yes.
That was something that is, it's in the fabric of who we are at BI. And going to Clemson, I felt empowered of, I'm gonna do something different, and I know that I can do it. And I think that BI gave me that, mindset and allowed me to do that. But it was really good for me to leave Virginia and leave Alexandria and be 8 hours away, and really have to learn how to, be on your own, and leave, the comfort of people that a ton. BI was integral in preparing me for Clemson for sure. My course schedule here at BI, really helped prepare me. The AP government class was really helpful. That obviously gave me some building blocks to political science. Also my history courses here, that was also really helpful. And a lot of the papers that I would write in classes here.
You always hear people talk about how Ireton prepared them for college on the writing.
The writing.
And so strongly.
Yes. And then, BI was such a sense of community, right? And I wanted to make sure that I found that when I went to college. And I did. I joined a sorority, and I was a spin instructor at Clemson. I did a class that they had that you learned how to be like a fitness instructor. And so then I taught classes at our campus rec center, for a couple of years at Clemson. And that was awesome. And once again, like all of the, the sports that I did here at BI, was really, really helpful. I think when I was at the end of my freshman year in college, I remember reflecting and thinking, if I was going to tell someone when they are going to college, what I recommend is think about the things that you like to do in your everyday life, right? What is it? Is it going for a run? Is it going to church? Is it reading? Is it painting? Is it seeing your friends? Is it baking? What is it? And figure out how you'll implement that when you go to college, because it is so overwhelming when you go to a new state, a new school, whatever it is. Going to church, right? Like these are things that we did in our everyday life. Obviously, BI instilled that in me. St. Mary's instilled that in me. And I still went to church when I went to Clemson, and it wasn't as accessible, right? Like, especially in the South, it's different. That was so new to me, because I'd really been around the Catholic community for a lot in my life here, which was wonderful. But going to Clemson, I had to, think about the things that I really enjoyed doing and made me who I was and made me a better person, and how I was going to incorporate that.
Now, you graduated from Clemson in 2018 with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. And when you graduated, you found work on Capitol Hill pretty quickly. You've since had a wealth of experience in a number of different areas around the Hill, including in the offices of multiple Congress people. I want to start by asking you whether you knew exactly what you wanted to do as a career when you first graduated from college, knowing that you had shared some of those experiences, but were you thinking about some other avenues, or were you pretty much honed in at that point from everything you've explained so far that this is what I want to do?
When I was at Clemson, I would come home each summer and I would intern in DC. Interning in DC is a wonderful experience. And when I interned, you didn't get paid. So you did it because you really wanted to be there, right? And it costs a lot to live in DC. So I was very fortunate that I would live at home and I'd metro in and intern in different offices on Capitol Hill. And so I did that. I also interned in a district office for a congressman in South Carolina when I was at Clemson. And I would drive like a half hour each way on Tuesdays and Thursdays to go work for 5 hours and answer the phones and help with certain requests and go to meetings in the field with this office. And it was an eye-opening experience, right? And so when I graduated from Clemson, I wanted to work on the Hill. I knew that. There was an internship that I had done in a congressional office after my sophomore year that made me want to be a staff assistant on Capitol Hill. It was my dream job. And so I was lucky enough, because I had done several internships, that I was connected to some great mentors that helped me secure a job before I had graduated from Clemson.
I was just thinking about asking you about advice for our listeners, especially our young listeners who might be considering a career in politics, to position themselves. But you really articulated that so well about how you got to stay ahead of the curve, right? Because you hear so many times, well, I'm having struggles here, but it's those internships. And just expand on a little bit of what you share.
Yes. And interning on the Hill was so helpful, right? Going from college to a job is a leap. It is a different every day, right? And so just going into an office setting and learning, the normal processes and how people interact really makes you more comfortable and feel prepared to go and have your first job, right? You're learning the normal rhythms, you're learning their everyday tasks. When you are in college, and even in high school and college, starting to think about some ways that you can kind of get a firsthand experience, right? Putting yourself out there, talking to maybe your parents' friends that, oh, this sounds interesting. Like, could I shadow you for a day? You can totally do that. Like that is something I'd recommend. And also to give the advice that if you are not sure, you feel as though all your friends know what they want to do and you're still searching, that is okay. Not everyone, we don't have it all figured out, and we still don't, right? Like, it's an evolving process. And so especially for people that are interested in working on the Hill, I think interning, right? Interning in the House, interning in the Senate, interning on a campaign. There are so many ways to get involved and to dip your toe in and see, what do you like? You're more ready for the things that are ahead of you than you think that you are. That there's so many skills that you're learning in high school and college that will reveal themselves when you step into an office.
Now, politics has become an increasingly partisan space, which has understandably left a sour taste for some or many people, but the role of government remains as important as ever. And what encouragement would you give to our listeners about the importance of work in government, regardless of political preference?
I have several friends on both sides of the aisle, right? And I think that that's what isn't seen in the news every day. There are so many conversations taking place with all thoughts in mind, right? We work all the time with Democrats and Republicans, and it's just not always something that is highlighted. Even, for example, I in the previous office that I worked in, I worked on a bill that recently just passed the House this week. In a bipartisan manner. It was a voice vote. So basically, everyone in the House of Representatives was okay with it passing. So no one stood up and said, oh, no, I have an issue, or I want to even record a vote on this. And so there are so many things out there that we do that just are not in the limelight. Government is about helping people. And so we, on a daily basis, you're working for the greater good. There's a lot of hope that we have so many young people working in government that are, grinding it out on a daily basis to do the right thing and to help people and improve their lives. I am really lucky right now. I work for several members of Congress, and I work for the whip of the House right now, Tom Emmer. He's from Minnesota, and he's Catholic, and that is something that we share. And it is really cool to work with someone of the same faith. And we come from different parts of the country, but we have the same faith, and that's just a really special thing for me right now.
Thank you for sharing all that and the excitement of just the way you talk about government and the hope you have as a young Ireton alum and a young person on the Hill. It's really inspiring. So thank you for sharing all that with us. And I want to bring this full circle now. And it's been more than 10 years since you graduated from Bishop Ireton, but I know there is still a connection there with your great cardinal spirit. And you got married last year. Congratulations on that. And I understand that two of your bridesmaids were Bishop Ireton classmates. Can you talk about the friendships you made at BI and why they are still impactful in your life more than a decade after graduating from Cambridge Road?
Capri Puglisi and Maria Manzek were in my wedding, and my cousin, and then actually it's technically four, but two classmates, Maria and Capri, and then my two cousins, Meg and Maeve Webster, were my bridesmaids. So we had a really good, solid component of BI grads in that wedding party. The friendships I made at BI were like sewn into the fabric of who I am. I still stay in touch with so many people, and I'm so lucky to have that. It's really cool to have friendships that have lasted several years, and when they've lasted several years, they're going to last years to come too. And so, I've had several friends at BI. We have been through so many things together and have learned and have grown, and we've gotten married and we visit each other in different cities, which is so special. And we have the same values where we still have conversations about, our faith and our family and things that we want to continue in our lives. And I think that we are all so thankful that BI brought us together for sure. That was one of the coolest things. And Maria and I were, we met in cross country practice, the first couple of days of my Ireton experience. And we had lived 5 minutes from each other, but have never met each other before BI. And now we are the best of friends. She has a house in my parents' neighborhood, so I always will get to see her for the rest of my life, which is fun. And I'm so glad to continue and enjoy life with them.
Now, last year, Bishop Ireton hosted the first BI on the Hill event. And earlier this fall, we held our second event, and you've attended both. Can you tell us why it's important for you to remain connected to Bishop Ireton through these kind of events? And I know that was extra special for you being on the Hill.
It is so important to be connected, right? I think on the Hill, we talk about networking, and it's all about, the relationships and the people. It is a business about people. And so having BI have a little event right on Capitol Hill was the coolest thing. I was so proud of that. It was so fun to have you there, Ryan, and Kathleen McNutt there, and parents and alumni. And there are so many circles of people, but it's always special to be able to come together for the BI Cardinals, and we just all have this shared sense of love for this school, love for our faith, and there's so many people from BI on the Hill, which is really cool. And so that definitely reignited my excitement to stay connected to BI, right? And I just walked across this campus before I got here, and man, it is amazing. I was blown away, still am. And so this school had a lasting impression and made such an impact on my life. And so these kinds of events are a good reminder of that, and bring people together and bring us back. And so I think it inspires us all to continue that Cardinal spirit going forward and to make sure that we're still in touch with BI.
That's Annie Brody, BI class of 2014, whose love and appreciation for Bishop Ireton continues to this day, more than a decade after her graduation. I'm Ryan Fannin, and you've been listening to Bishop Ireton's Real World Wednesdays.